All right, and we're live to review day two of the only test. Once again, I just keep forgetting that I want to say it's the first test, but unfortunately, it's also the only test. But yeah, day two of the only test between the India and the Australian women's side. We've got Neha Shetty, of course, and today we've also got a debutant. Hello, Swami, how are you doing? And how is the day today? I mean, how was your day today to begin with? Because I know you were busy yesterday and you weren't able to make it. So yeah, all good.
Yes, finally a day. I mean, it's almost wrapped up the work for this year. So it was a kind of an easy day and a great day to see India bat so well. So overall, a great day.
Fantastic. And yeah, like you mentioned, sort of fantastic day to watch, Indian batters sort of get those runs under their belt. Neha and I, yesterday, we spoke about how, probably going to 280 would be, would be the bare minimum expected of them, and hopefully a Smriti century as well. The latter did not really come to fruition, unfortunately. But yeah, we got to see a lot of runs, 4 half centurions. Unfortunately, not a single centurion. Let's hope Deepti Sharma sort of, changes that tomorrow. But Neha, that was a fantastic performance by our batters today, right?
Absolutely. I mean, carrying on from our conversation yesterday, we were talking about how there's so much batting depth still left. Now, Smriti Mandhana was, on her overnight score of some 40 odd. And the way she was able to, bat through that innings, and Sneh Rana was being the perfect second fiddle, right? I mean, she's a much better batter than that score is showing right now, 9 or 57 deliveries. But it was brilliant to see them bat. Honestly, they were just grinding it out, frustrating those Aussie bowlers, which was such a delight to see. And I felt like that really set up the platform for the following batters to come, right? You had Richa Ghosh on debut getting a half century. You had Jemima Rodriguez, your home girl, scoring a crucial knock of 73. I was a little sad that Harmanpreet Kaur didn't, make the most of the conditions she, got out on that 2-ball duck. But I think it really ensured that, Deepti Sharma also got a good go at the with the bat. And I think her score of 70 literally speaks for itself. And if India continues to bat, I hope they don't declare overnight, because there's still so much they can actually extract from the surface. So yeah, all in all, I think it was a brilliant day with the bat.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, let's start with the batters. Of course, Smriti Mandhana right at the top. Yesterday, she sort of she was batting overnight at 46, if I'm not wrong, and I was hopeful that she would get that century. That run out, man. Come on, what's it with openers and getting run out in this test match? It was Phoebe Litchfield yesterday. It was Smriti Mandhana today. I mean, come on, Swami. Like you sort of expected better from her, right, today.
Exactly, because I think it's very unfortunate to see that mix up in the middle, and she took a little bit of time in the morning. As you guys had spoken yesterday, that you guys wanted them to start a little slow and then take it on from there. I think they did that job really well. Smriti Mandhana took her time, then she kind of came into the party. She was looking good, and it felt like that it'll be another century that's coming. But it was unfortunate to see that mix up. It's frustrating. Runouts are always frustrating, as Sunny ji always says that it's always worth that one run if you don't get run out. But yeah, in this particular case, she was disappointed. We could see it right on her face that she was so disappointed, especially after settling down. Yeah, that's unfortunate. But yeah, after that, how the momentum kind of changed. I think that's something which was really refreshing. But yeah, we can definitely start with how Sneh Rana kind of stood her ground and kind of saw through that first hour. I think that really speaks a lot about her character. So yeah, that's something we can definitely shed some light upon.
Definitely. And also you mentioned about runouts and what Sunny ji has to say. Closer to cricket.com, we've got Gurkirat Paji, of course, who's a staunch critic of critic out there, critique, a staunch critic of runouts. He just hates it, especially in T20 eyes. I'm pretty sure he must have just been boiling there right now, seeing a run out in test matches. Why would you go for that? That's what he must be thinking. But yeah, I mean, you can't really blame a man. Like, format like test cricket where, it's all about patience and sort of grinding it out. When you see a run out like that happen, it just sort of really gets on your nerves. Neha, we know Sneh Rana is no mug with the bat. In fact, you also in particular mentioned how she, if she could sort of take the attack to the bowlers tomorrow, today in the first session, that could ease the pressure of Smriti Mandhana, and she could then sort of play herself into the day. Not to be the case. She maybe that was the orders. I mean, that was the plan, that Sneh Rana probably holds one end up and Smriti can go from the other end. But we saw Richa Ghosh come at number 4, which isn't usually the case. We usually see someone like a Jenny or even Herdman for that matter. How happy were you with that, Richa Ghosh getting that promotion? Because even in limited overs, it's more often than not we see her coming in at number 5, number 6. Not really low, but yeah, somewhere there. So seeing her get that promotion, fantastic choice, or do you think they probably could have sort of sent Jemmy up?
I think it was a fantastic choice. And also, it was about, just rattling the Aussies a little there. They weren't seeing that coming. And also, I think it reflects a lot in the belief, that the management has in her abilities. We have seen her time and again perform in limited overs cricket. And, seeing her in test wise has obviously been a dream for her. And this was going to be that perfect platform. And I think she made the most of it, because the moment the Aussies couldn't, decipher this whole game plan for her, because she's coming in at four, we were expecting Jenny, to play that slow game, take it easy. But then Richa, the kind of player she is and the price that her wicket carries. So I think Richa was playing with that mindset. I think even in her post-match interview, she mentioned how, Smriti's instructions were simple. Don't think of this as a debut. Just think of it as any other match. You've played a lot for India. Just, trust your game and go just play. I think that really showed in how, she was able to play her shots. She looked, very much at ease. I mean, the run out did happen and Smriti Mandhana was extremely frustrated, but she started walking and then she looked back and, gave Richa that confidence ki, hey, it's fine, take a pause. Run outs are very common. And, I think that really speaks volume of the kind of character Smriti Mandhana herself is, right? So I think that was like the kind of push that Richa needed, because even when you see her now, it's like 52 of 104 balls. So we saw how she, just put herself out there and just, got to the Aussie bowlers. So yeah, a great knock, I'd say.
Definitely, and that's something that I personally didn't see coming, not just in terms of her promotion, but also the way she played. We usually associate Richa with, the aggressor, someone who likes to be attacking and all of that. And which is why I like that promotion in the first place, because she's someone who, on her day, can really take the attack to the opposition and sort of take the game away from them in a session or two. Of course, today the circumstances were different. Something else was expected of her, and she delivered it to perfection. But yeah, when I sort of hear names like Smriti, Richa, Renuka, all of them doing good together, for some reason, I don't know, I have absolutely no clue what the connection between the three names are, but for some reason, I just feel very happy. Just had to put that out there. But tell me, in terms of bowling, especially the Australian side, something again Neha and I had alluded to yesterday was we could probably see a lot more spin coming into play today. And that went on to be the case. Even if you, I'm forgetting who was the comment. Yeah, it was by Gemini, who also mentioned Perry didn't get a single over today. She wasn't exactly at her best yesterday. She went for a few in the 4 overs she bowled, and she didn't get a ball today. Do you think it had to do with how the surface was playing, or do you think it had more to do with Healy probably not having confidence, on her pacers, Perry in particular?
I think it had to do with the surface that it was turning out to be, and as we saw, Haley probably tried out a lot of bowlers, and it was only Gardner who kind of came to the party, and she was the one who was bowling those tight lines, and she was the only one who kind of challenged the Indian batters. So, in spite of the fact that post lunch when we saw that a little collapse that happened, which Gardner had caused, in spite of that, Australia could not really capitalize on it, which actually showed that it kind of didn't show up very well on the mighty Australian side as we would have imagined. So yeah, I think it had to do a lot with the surface regarding the choice of the bowlers. But at the end of it, I think it was only the spinners, and mostly the spinner, who kind of stood up to it. Yeah.
Neha, you agree with that? What do you think? What did you make of that?
Definitely, I agree with her, because when you look at Ashley Gardner, right, she's the kind of X factor that Australia has. And when you look at today's pie chart as well, that sessions pie, she completely owned India, right? In that spell where she got 4 wickets in a matter of 8.5 overs, India suddenly looking very listless and lost. We lost some very important wickets, and I think that could have been that momentum shifting thing had India, not actually taken stock of the situation and then played that calm and calculated cricket. And even yesterday we had spoken about how Aussie spinners were much better than the English ones. So there was always going to be a challenge. It was just a matter of when, it would actually come to fruition. So in that sense, I think Ashley Gardner did produce that moment where India could have gone into that whole panic state, had that entire collapse, and we probably wouldn't have even seen a lead of more than 100 or so. So credits to her for putting on that pressure. But I think after when session 3 came in, they just started tapering off, right? They looked like an entirely different side. They looked defeated, and Deepti Sharma was just frustrating them so much, and with the dots and everything. So yeah, that's just Test cricket at its finest display, I suppose.
100%. And to be honest, in general, the Aussie bowlers, they did not really inspire a lot of confidence to their skipper. they did seem a bit too inconsistent with their lines, barring Gardner, of course, who really was consistent. I mean, those figures also sort of reflect that. 4 for 100 after bowling 41 overs. That's no mean feat. But what I also want to sort of talk about is bowlers from the other end, support from the other end. Ashley Gardner was, of course, good. Pacers weren't the greatest, agreed, and also the surface wasn't suiting them, so that also probably added to that. But she didn't even get enough support from the other end. Jess Johnson, for one, was sort of giving her that bit of support, but for some reason, she didn't bowl as much as you would have expected her to do. Like if I look at the number of overs bowled by all of their spinners, Gardner 41, then there's Johnson who's bowled 19, and then there's Alana King who bowled 18. Why do you think that happened? Shami, you could probably start with that, because Alana also seemed a bit too sort of wayward. We saw, Jenny being very comfortable against her. I can remember at least 7 or 8 sweep shots that she played against her. Practically all of them went for a boundary. You think, again, do you think that they probably could have used their bowlers a bit more, a bit more better in terms of allocation of overs, or are you happy with how they went about it today?
I think I'm pretty definitely she lacked that kind of a support from the other end. Definitely King was doing a lot better. Maybe she could have been explored for a longer period of time. That's what I felt, because there was nothing happening at the other end. So at that point of time, you kind of need to persist with the with your pair. I think that was a little kind of a faster movement from Healy. Of course, she is also a young captain, so she will learn with time. Again, this is a foreign soil. You're coming to India, playing a test match. All of those things are playing. So, of course, she will probably learn with time. But also, I think the way Indian batters actually frustrated the Australian bowlers and in turn Healy, I think that played a big role in creating these misjudgments. Like right from the beginning, though Sneh Rana was really, at times it felt to me even that, she was being a tad bit more defensive. It was okay to be slow, but somewhere I felt that she was being a little more defensive when she was not even attempting the full tosses. So I think they were trying to make her play, but she was not playing at all. She was not showing any intent to score runs. She did not need to, because Smriti was doing that job. But at the same time, I think it was a lot of frustration that was building up. Plus, I think the misfields, especially the ones from McGrath, that dropped catch, all of these things kind of add up when you are tackling the decisions on the field, when all of these decisions around the bowling changes, everything are happening. So I think those things kind of led to a few of those misjudgments. But yeah, I still feel, though Ellis Perry was not at her best, but Ellis Perry is a kind of a bowler. She's a match winner. She can turn the tables for you. So giving a little shot, giving a little longer shot, I think that could have helped Australia to an extent. Especially with the new ball, when the new ball came in. I mean, I think that could have been a point when they could have tried it.
That's actually a fair shout. And Neha, again, the reason I sort of wanted to talk about the spinners in particular was, yesterday we mentioned that Alana didn't really get the ball. It was Jess and Ashley who ended the day. Understandably, because of favorable matchups and more control and all of that. Leg spinners usually are associated with being slightly more inconsistent, given how difficult it is to grip the ball and all of that. Today we saw Alana come in. Today we saw her bowl. She was expected to be a lot more lethal, especially given that Ashley from the other end was being very, very, very sort of miserly with her returns. So we knew that the Indian batters are going to try and attack Alana as much as possible, and that would give her the best shot at taking wickets. But that didn't really materialize the way, probably Healy and Cope wanted to, right? Like, why do you think that was the reason? Had to do with Alana's bowling? Do you think it had to do with our batters being really, really proficient against, in terms of how they played spin, a bit of both? What do you make of that?
I think here I'd like to give credit to our batters. The way we were able to, get to the skin of the Aussie bowlers, if that makes sense, I think that really showed, right? Because I think Alisa Ali was just trying to throw everything at our batters with respect to how the bowling was very hinged on Ashley Gardner operating from one end, and the other end you had so many experimentations that is just not working. The pacers were completely off. And although Alana King was brought into the attack, we could see how ineffective she was. We just saw how Jemmy was just playing her all around the park with not a lot of difficulties. The singles were coming in, and even if you see her economy rate, it's just 3.63. So you could see how the runs were coming. It was not like she was stifling or suffocating runs from the other end. So I think this primarily also shows how they were overtly dependent on Ashley Gardner to get those wickets. And I think there was a point where when Jess Johnson was bowling, the ball just slipped out of her hand. You could see how they were just losing control so much, and it was so evident. Especially that session 3 was really like difficult to watch. At least if someone's an Aussie fan, they'd be like, what is happening? This is not how things are supposed to be, because Deepti Sharma was like so much in control of those things. So, and even with Lauren Chiatel, right, I had so much of expectations, like, this left arm pacer, she's coming in after so many injuries, and, making her debut, it's a big thing. But somewhere I think she couldn't like make the most of the conditions. I mean, inexperience is also a thing, but I think she will have a lot of learnings to take away.
Definitely, and a lot of learnings for the Aussie bowlers, of course, in particular, because again, this is the first time they're playing a test in 40 years, like Neha mentioned yesterday. So it's not going to be easy for them. Of course, we'll have to give them that much credit that way. But talking about batters and the performances, Sami, your best, I mean, your performance for the day. I mean, there were multiple half centuries, there were multiple solid performances to say the least. Whose did you like the best watching today?
I'll go with Pooja Vastrakar, because the kind of innings that she played, I think, had it not been the kind of diligence that she showed in the end, I think we would have been feeling today. I think that really deserves a applaud of the way kind of Vastrakar kind of took the innings deep. Now, beyond that, of course, it was very refreshing to see Jemmy. So she's always refreshing. She was the one who kept on attacking. At the same time, she was very cautious when she was, that entire point of time when the spinners were really getting a lot of assistance. She was really cautious. So I think that kind of a balance that she showed, that's something which was very refreshing. And we have to just give it to the girl that, this is just a second test match. She got a 50 in the first one, but she's carrying the form. But yeah, just the way she's trying to adapt and make the most out of the red ball format, I think that's really incredible.
I mean, yeah, like Rohan Gavaskar mentioned, on comms when she sort of scored her 50, she's really taken to Test cricket like a duck to water. It's great to see that. And again, something Neha and I also spoke about yesterday, at least for me personally, I consider Jenny to be the only batter of spin in our team. I don't think there's anyone else. Given that, and given how the service was expected to play, I was genuinely expecting a solid performance from her, and it's so good to see her actually do that, because it's one thing to expect, of course, and it's a totally different thing to actually be able to come good on those expectations. A fantastic performance from her. And, like you mentioned, huge shout out to Pooja as well. A very unlike her innings, a very uncharacteristic innings of her, so to say, because from her, so to say, because again, similar to Richa, she's also someone who likes to be aggressive, who likes to sort of, get going with those boundaries and all of that. Not to be the case. She understood the situation. She really sort of, knew what needs to be done, what's expected of her, and what a great way to follow up, that brilliant spell from yesterday. Fantastic all-round performance. Neha, what about you? Best performance of the day? Who was it for you?
So as an Indian fan, it's of course difficult to pick, right? When you have almost all of your batters score those crucial half centuries. But for me, I think, it definitely has to be like Smriti Mandhana's knock, except for the run out that we have already discussed. But then the concerning trend that I see with both Smriti Mandhana and Jemima Rodriguez is how there's this curious case of the nervous 70s, right? They just seem to be getting dismissed in the 60s and 70s range. They're not able to capitalize post that. So I feel like if they can actually like stay at the crease a little longer, just can extend that run of form to probably 100, that would not just do a world of good for their own personal milestone, but even for the team's cause, right? Because the moment there's a wicket fall, you see the pressure, really come. I mean, today we had, the likes of like Richa Ghosh, you had Deepti Sharma, come to the party. I mean, they have been consistent as well. But I feel like if they are not able to convert those starts into something bigger, it gets a little tricky there. But yeah, to answer your question, I think definitely favorite performances have to be Smriti and Jamie, with special shout out to Richa, right?
Fair enough. And there's only one name that all three of us combined haven't mentioned. And in some sense, that's like a tribute to her, because again, she is almost always expected to perform well, especially in a format like this. Like Sports Fan here has mentioned, Deepti Sharma, the batter in test format, it's just made for each other. Again, very, very at ease. There's hardly any foot wrong. I mean, any step wrong by her. She just knows what needs to be done. And again, I'm genuinely hoping that, we don't really sort of declare overnight. She gets to a century. We need a bit of that lead, because I still feel this isn't a healthy enough lead for us to sort of, get complacent. Let's take a few questions, of course, before we go ahead. Gemini Panchal, of course, asks us, do we need to declare tomorrow? Keep batting. They should go for a century. Sami, let's start with you. What do you think? What do you think we should do tomorrow?
I think we should definitely take the lead a lot more higher. Especially, we don't want to bat in this particular pitch on the fourth, as in the fourth innings. So definitely taking the lead a lot higher and then getting Aussies to bat will is something that I will look forward to. Deepti should definitely go for a century. After all, it's one of the tests against Australia. We all want our girls to see get to that milestone. It might we might call it a personal milestone. There is no harm in calling it that, but yeah, we all want that.
Fair enough. Neha, what about you? What are you expecting from the Indian team tomorrow?
Absolutely. I think we should not declare overnight. We should bat at least for 2 sessions tomorrow. So we have a healthy lead of, say, 200, 220-ish. I think that would be like really competitive. And, then we try to bowl out Australia in like 5 sessions. That'll be like an absolute dream win. Like, imagine winning by such a huge margin, right? So I think considering we have, like, it's advantage India at this point, right? Deepti Sharma is looking settled at that with that score of 70. You have Pooja Vastrakar who's looking solid with that 33. I'm sure it might eventually go to say a 50 or so. So I believe that they should not declare overnight, try to go big, bat those 2 sessions, and see what unfolds.
Interesting. I mean, interesting both of you say that, because it's a very tricky situation, because of course this is 4-day cricket, unlike how men's test cricket is played over 5 days. So with just 2 days of cricket remaining, I've actually been trying to think what's the ideal score at which India should probably try and declare and then bowl the Aussies out, because that's again not going to be easy. I know we did that in the first innings, but it won't be easy trying to replicate that. Of course, what would also help them that the pitches deteriorated further, so probably our spinners would further come into play. I'm just hoping that does, sort of help us out. Let's take a few more questions. Vasant Narayan, Vasant Narayan asks us, of course, he's a regular here. Is lack of experience hurting Australia? And India had recent experience. The line and length showed that, we should play at least 2 test matches for players to get experience. That's actually not a bad point, right? Because India played a test match here just a week ago, less than a week ago. So they sort of have an idea of, what needs to be done. It might not be the same pitch, it might not be the same venue, but even then, just having played the format sort of gets your body moving. You understand, what the flow of the game is, what the rhythm needs to be, and all of that. Swami, do you think that plays a part in terms of how players sort of acclimatize to a different format and experience, of course, in such conditions?
Definitely, yes. But I was thinking while watching this match, especially because it's Australia, right? They're coming in directly from the Big Bash. So is the change in format really something that we look up? I mean, is it something that's really causing the problem? And especially when you're playing on the foreign soil, you're coming in directly from Big Bash, and we might as well expect such a thing. When we talk about experience, I think the Indian side is also fairly inexperienced. So big ups to them that they could stand up to the situation. But yeah, all of these things definitely play a role. But getting a little bit of a practice time under the belt after you come in right from a tournament which is as speedy, as agile as a Big Bash to a test cricket on a foreign soil, I think that's where a disconnect is lying.
100%. Those are a couple of really good points. Neha, like she mentioned, BBL se aa rahe, it's a completely different format, and not to forget, it's a completely different country. So conditions aren't the same. The pace and bounce, getting used to it, all of that takes time. Of course, they did play that one-day red ball game and all of that, but clearly it shows that, that's not enough, for them to sort of get used to these conditions and all of that. What do you think? So how do you think could Australia have, offset this? Because lack of experience clearly will be a case with them. It isn't the oldest side, so to say. They do have a couple of experienced players, but not a lot of them who've played here. How do you think they could have sort of offset such an issue?
So I think one has to be the initiative by Cricket Australia themselves to have a lot more red ball matches, right? If you're undertaking a tour to India, you just can't come with, like BBL practice or something. And even though they did have that, practice match against the Mumbai team, it was still probably not going to be enough. And also, I think, ICC can definitely incorporate more tests, right? Because this one-off test is definitely not helping. And again, it's a very small sample size that we are drawing our observations from. It's not enough to, make our assessments as well. It's just looking at it that way. And also, I think we need to give credit to the Indian side, right? They are beasts in test cricket. You've been unbeaten for such a long time. guess what, we have not lost like in a lot of years. It's always been draws or so. So in that sense, I think we are a great team, and Australia can take a leap from our book in that respect. But I think to improve their game further, probably playing more practice matches, having more A tours is definitely the step ahead. And yeah, I would love to see a lot more of these matches happening.
I mean, not one for analogies, but yeah, if we really had to compare, the two boards, the Australian Cricket Board and Women's Cricket, you could probably say that's as close as it can get to, what BCCI is to men's cricket. They are probably the most powerful board out there in terms of, policies, in terms of, whatever they come up with, they usually are the torch bearers. So them not doing something like this is probably a bit upsetting. Fingers crossed, something like that will happen in the future. As far as India is concerned, I mean, it still blows my mind that the last test played before, the India-England test was way back in 2014. I just randomly came across that stat last year when I was doing something, and I got to know 2014 a test happened, and it's not happened since then. And guess where that test happened? It happened in Mysore. I was like, bhai, ye to, matlab, this is crazy stuff. But yeah, fingers crossed, they'll get more game time. We'll get to watch a bit more of this, because that's how we'll also understand, what these players are made of. It's very easy for us to just sort of get used to how they play white ball cricket and then think, okay, that's what will be expected of them. Richa Ghosh, Pooja Vastrikar, we know they play a certain brand of cricket. Haan, to wahi hoga yahan pe bhi. Clearly not the case. Clearly they know, what it takes to sort of play red ball cricket well. And yeah, it's very heartening to see that. Meanwhile, next question. Sports fan, Healy, the captain, has big shoes to fill to emulate Meg's captaincy prowess. Didn't think of Australia being dominated by India. I'm guessing he's talking about the way they've dominated the Aussies. Again, something we sort of spoke about in brief. Alisa Healy's captaincy and how, again, she's very aggressive. She wears her heart honestly. She likes to sort of, she is a win it at all costs kind of cricketer. Shami, do you think, again, this is something that'll happen over time, or do you think you probably sort of were let down in terms of how she has been as a captain this time around? Congratulations, we have our first panelist speaking on mute. No worries. It's sort of a ritual, during all the other games. At least once it happens, and we just love it. No worries.
Yeah. So I think we are being a little early to take a call on her. Of course, she has captained her domestic side, so I'm sure she will come back to the party. Also, as you guys mentioned yesterday, I see a lot of similarities in between her and Virat Kohli. And imagine how Virat Kohli evolved over the years as a captain, and especially when it comes to the test format. She had completely hyped up Australia, where we could see the intent that she's bringing on to the side, right? Today, there are certain things which kind of really caught my attention, especially how she was backing Megra after she had those couple of lapses, how she was backing Ellis Perry after she had that drop catch. I think those are signs of a great captain. So maybe give her a little bit of time, and she will definitely. She's a superb player, so she will definitely come along and kind of make Australia very dominant. Of course, Meg Lanning, she's another class altogether. It's a very difficult shoe to fill. Australia seemed looked a lot more coherent, but I don't see that this will not happen with Healy. I don't kind of foresee that.
Fair enough. And before I go to Neha, guys, just please make sure you're hitting the like button. I know I probably haven't mentioned it enough during the stream. Please do make sure you're hitting the like button. Make sure you've also subscribed to us if you haven't already. It'll do a world of good to us. That's how, YouTube promotes the video. Sorry about that. And Santa Recruz, of course, thank you so much. He says, glad that you all are having this live to cover women's cricket. I mean, it was a long time coming. It was a long time due. Finally, we're also happy that we're being able to do something like this. Fingers crossed, there'll be more games to cover this, because that's how this will also be feasible. Agar matches hi wo saal mein ek baar khelenge, to it becomes difficult for us to do something like that. Fingers crossed, we can probably have this panel a lot more often than right now. So yeah, let's hope for that. But yeah, speaking about tomorrow's day, I personally have been trying to think what should be how big a lead should they sort of go for in order to try and win this game by an innings, by a margin of an innings or above. Shami, what do you think? Let's start with you. How much do you think India should sort of lead with in order to be able to declare or even be bundled out? What do you think is a safe enough or a healthy enough lead for them?
I think somewhere around the 250 will be a good enough kind of a lead to go into that particular 3.5 day kind of a mark, and then kind of bore your heart out and get them off within the next 100, 150 runs, not 100, maybe 150, 200 runs. I think that's a very practical approach to look at this. At the same time, we have to be wary about the fact we are 7 down. So we have to play really attacking brand of cricket right from the beginning tomorrow. The good news is we have two all-rounders who are so much more used to playing this kind of a cricket. So I think a good 250 would be a really safe target to go along.
Interesting. Neha, do you agree with that? Do you think it should be more, it should be less? What are you thinking?
So I'll try to answer this in two parts. So just looking at our previous part of, we were looking at Alisa Healy's captaincy, right? So I really believe that tomorrow will be like a big acid test for her captaincy, because we could see that frustration creep in today. She's getting extremely chatty behind the stump. I mean, that she usually is. But today you could see that frustration as well. And there's this point where she's asking Richa Ghosh not to stand where, close to that batter's run up. And I mean, obviously she couldn't change her position because there's a fielder right in front there, right? So it would obviously block her running path. So you could see how that frustration was coming in. So I think a lot depends on how she's able to marshal her troops, inspire confidence, because hey, these are Indian conditions. It is going to get very challenging. And to answer the question that you asked, what would be a safe lead? I think maybe like that 220, 230 mark is definitely going to be good, because if you can bowl out Australia in 5 sessions, nothing like it. If not, I mean, let's see what brand of batting Australia brings to the picture, right? Because if India has to again come into bat to chase that total, this is going to be a thriller of a test match. And perhaps will reinforce that whole thing that, hey, we actually need 5 days of, women's cricket rather than just having this everything crammed in 4 days, because that's definitely not how it should be. But ICC, hope you're taking a note of this. But either case, we are in for an exciting day of cricket. But I think that 230 barrier should be something that India should aspire for.
Fair enough. Also, Ashutosh asks us, any pitch talk so far? Looks like Test is the format for India. Neha, let's start with you. In terms of how the pitch is played so far, happy with it? How do you rate it? I mean, just like how ICC rates it. Come on, let us also have a say. What do you think? Happy with the pitch and how the surface is played so far?
Definitely. I think I'm very satisfied with the way the pitch has played so far. I mean, we're playing it at Wankhede, right? This is one of your better test centers in India. And we're not playing at the DY Patil. So here it shows that BCCI has this intent to actually keep these in venues where, you'd have spectators coming in. The pitch is also good. And these are how pitches in India are, right? You will have those cracks coming in. It is going to get difficult to bowl. So far, we haven't heard complaints from our opposition about, it's a dust bowl, it's so difficult to bowl, and, it's so like subcontinent conditions getting difficult. So
no,
that's
that happens
a great
after the game, right? That happens at the end of the game. So wait for that. Sorry.
I mean, Alisa is pretty vocal in that sense. So far we haven't heard that, and they're like, giving us the credit of, good batting. Like bowling has been good. I think when Talia Megra complimented Pooja Vastrikar on that Ellis Perry dismissal and everything. So far it's been that. But yeah, pitch-wise, I have no complaints. I mean, this is how a test match does unfold in India. If they have complaints with it, then yeah, I think it's a you problem.
Fair enough. Okay, time to end with predictions. Sami, how much do you think India is ending up with tomorrow? First innings, 400. You think we can cross that barrier?
Yes, I think definitely a 400. And as we spoke about that, maybe another 50, 60 odd runs on the board with 1 centurion. I think we will be happy with that.
I like that touch of 1 centurion. That's definitely something I'm also looking forward to. Neha, what about you? Prediction time. What do you think?
Yeah, so yesterday's prediction of ours where we said, that 280 would be a score, that badly went wrong. So predictions are definitely not my cup of tea. But as an optimistic Indian fan, perhaps that total of like 420 or so would be great. And if Deepti Sharma can get to that century, obviously it'll be a cherry on that cake. And it'll be good to see, Pooja Vastrikar, the batter as well, we get to see her tomorrow as well. I want to see how she comes fresh, having bowled that long spell in that first innings and then batting through these conditions as well. So yeah, all in all, I think India should aim for a total in excess of like 420, if that makes sense.
Fair enough. I mean, they've already notched up 100 in partnership for the 8th wicket. Let's hope that goes up to 150 and 200 even if possible. Fingers crossed. As far as my prediction is concerned, I don't even know, to be honest. I'm just hoping they score enough runs. I don't see them batting again. I really hope we sort of are able to defeat Australia by an innings margin. That'll be great to watch. But yeah, fantastic, live stream. Thank you so much, guys. It's time to wrap up right now. And once again, guys, please do make sure that you've hit the like button if you haven't already. Also, do give not a like, Do give a follow to Never on the Back Foot and Six Pack and Sixers. Thank God I got the usernames right, because I don't think I remember my own username. I hope I got that right. Yeah, do give them a follow on Twitter and Instagram. Of course, to subscribe to cricket.com as well on YouTube. We will be here tomorrow. We'll also let you know the time. It'll most likely be 8 p.m. if possible. We'll also do it earlier. And we'll also be talking about how India ended up winning in day 3. That's it from us. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Good night.